What's up, guys? So Dana White announced 4 fights yesterday, all for UFC 299, and I just checked that card and it is ridiculously stacked. So in today's video, I'm going to be going through the recent fight announcements for that card, as well as previewing UFC 299 and just talking about each of the matchups on that card, because it's incredibly stacked. It's a great card. So we're going to start off by just obviously talking about the main event, Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera 2. It's a great fight, the rematch, a little bit of trash talk between the two, obviously, with that seasonal press conference. Chito's given O'Malley a bit of verbal abuse, calling him a bit of a cuck, Adam 22, something along those lines. But Chito Vera, Sean O'Malley, it's going to be an incredible fight. I'm early lean. I am going to be picking Sean O'Malley to win this fight, just because I think he's just so much better of a striker, and I don't see Chito Vera catching with a big shot. I see this going like an Adesanya type of fight, where he just sits on the outside and just outpoints the guy 4 or 5 rounds. I could see it being really dead. Maybe O'Malley gets a finish. That could happen. But ultimately, I just don't think he's going to get a finish. And I think he's going to be wary of the power of Chito Vera, and that's going to make him more cautious to sit on the outside, kind of not do that much, and just throw a lot of leg kicks and just keep range very well. Because Chito Vera got tuned up on the feet by fucking, everyone. The Pedro Munhoz fight was pretty 50-50. He lost to Sandhagen on the feet. He was losing to Font on the feet and just kept catching him. But I just don't see him catching O'Malley. Maybe he does. Maybe we get Chito Vera as the champion, despite him coming off 1 win and not deserving a title shot. But regardless, the story's there. It's going to probably sell a few pay-per-views with the younger audience that think that Sean O'Malley's a really cool and fucking role model kind of guy. The person that lets his wife sleep with his friends, like that kind of guy. He's a real charitable guy, He's sharing is caring is O'Malley's motto. But he's got a fan base for whatever reason, so they are probably going to buy this. They're going to get hooked in by the fake beef, all the trash talk and that kind of thing. Actually, I wouldn't say it's fake beef. I would say they dislike each other. But Chito Vera, look, man, he's a massive power puncher. He's got a great chin, so that's why I don't see... I could see O'Malley's trying to put more output on him early, but then he might get, cracked once, and then he's like, alright, fuck this, let me just be boring, sit on the outside and get a win. And I think that it's going to be a performance that's, really iffy, and everyone's like, what's he doing? It's going to lose him a couple fans, and it's going to, change the narrative around O'Malley. And then we're going to start thinking, oh, is this guy just going to turn into a fucking Adesanya now that he won the belt? Won it in a great way with a counter right KO, and now what's he going to do? Just fucking go distance all the time. But I just think this particular stylistic matchup, it could be really fun on the feet if they both just go for it and we end up with an O'Malley Yarn situation and they just swing for it. But ultimately, I just don't think it's going to be a barn burner. But I'm still really excited for it. I want Chito to win, but I just do think O'Malley's going to outpoint him. But we move on to the fight announcements on this card. So the first fight is Gilbert Burns versus Della Maddalena. I think I've talked about this on the channel before, but this is a great fight. We don't know the card order. I'd imagine this could be the co-main, maybe. Maybe they do Petr Yan versus Song Yadong co-main, but there's so many great fights, which I'm going to get to in a bit. But Gilbert Burns versus Della Maddalena, it's a great fight, really intriguing matchup, and hard to pick a winner, because if it's on the feet, I'm picking Della Maddalena all day, but I don't know if I trust his grappling just yet, because in the Basil Hafez fight, he really didn't look all that in the grappling. Even against Ramazan Ameev, he got taken down, put in a Darce choke almost. So if you're getting put in a Darce choke by Ramazan Ameev, I just can't be trusting you to grapple with Gilbert Burns. I know Burns is older. He's coming back after a long layoff. The last time he fought was in May. So this is going to be 10 months off for him, which isn't that bad. Della last fought in September. So but Burns was active. Burns fought in January, then he fought in April, and then he fought in May. So he was super active, and then he kind of burnt himself out and then was more susceptible to injury and fucked up his arm against Bilal. So I'm still salty about that fight. It was a fluke. But it's a great matchup. So on the feet, clear. Della Maddalena's got the way cleaner hands. Burns really doesn't use all his punches effectively. He kind of is left hand dominant, throws a lot of jabs, throws a lot of lead hooks. He can throw an overhand right. He's a powerful guy for sure, but I just don't see him cracking Della on the chin. Della really hasn't been rocked badly at all in his career from what we've seen yet. And even Holland, who had a major reach advantage, wasn't able to really put much damage on Jack. So And I thought Holland was going to win that fight. But in the grappling is where it's really going to be questionable, because Della hasn't fought all that many grapplers, and the two that he has fought, he didn't look all that good against. Like, if you look at his career, he came in, KO'd Pete Rodriguez, great stuff. Then he TKO'd Ramazan Ameev with the body shots. That was really cool too, but even that, he was in a worrying position with that dash choke. And Gilbert Burns got some of the best offensive submissions in the sport. Then he got a free win against Danny Roberts, who's shit at fighting. Then he fought Randy Brown in Perth, another guy with that long range, but not a grappler at all. Beat him by sub in the first round, but he was pretty much rocked, so I call that pretty much a TKO. And then he was going to fight Sean Brady, and a week later he fights Basil Hafez on short notice. And just judging off how that Basil Hafez fight went, I think, and judging how Sean Brady just did against Kelvin Gastelum, I honestly am almost glad for Jack that that fight didn't happen, because I really think that he would have lost that now, looking back on it. But regardless, I think he could stuff takedowns here, but I just think Burns' overall wrestling and grappling is going to be a little bit too much for Jack at this point in his career. I don't think it's going to be like a catastrophic loss for him. I don't think it's going to be like a really bad dominant, just he gets smushed. But I think it's going to be, I could see him losing a decision or getting subbed on the ground by Burns as well, because Burns has some great jiu-jitsu. And Burns even gave like Hamza trouble on the ground too. He really hasn't looked bad on the ground. Bilal, he was stuck striking with one arm, so obviously he can't win that fight. Bilal still took him to decision though, remember the decision. But regardless, great fight. Early lean, I'm going with Gilbert Burns using the grappling, but if Jack has made levels up in his game, it wouldn't surprise me, and we just see the older guy not be able to keep up, and Burns is just way slower. I could see that happening, but ultimately, I'm leaning with Burns early. But the next fight is Petr Yan versus Song Yadong, another new fight announcement, great stuff, and this is pretty much only a week after Song Yadong got a 50-45 decision win over Chris Gutierrez, and he made the call out of Petr Yan, and the UFC is like, sure, here you go, we'll book it a week later. So, great stuff from Song Yadong. He gets the fight that he wanted, he gets that call out, and he gets it 3 months later, so he's staying active. And if you look at this, Song Yadong, I'm trying to remember, he fought so he hasn't been that active. He fought in April against Ricky Simone, and then he was meant to fight in August against Rob Font, but he got injured. He then fights in December, and he's now fighting in March. So good activity from Song Yadong, and before that he fought Sandhagen in the previous September. So Petr Yan, this is going to be a full year off for him, pretty much on the dot. It's going to be like a year off since that Marab loss. It'll be really interesting to see how he's coming back. Maybe he's needed a mental refresh. He's on a 3-fight loss streak right now. But I'm picking Song Yadong to win this fight. I just got a feeling that, I don't think Petr Yan's washed, but I just think he hit the peak at the wrong point in his career, and it was like a short peak. Like, he was kind of going like this. He hit this peak here, and then he just kind of is going down. Like, it's not like a fucking Tony Ferguson just like straight down a fucking roller coaster crashing off the cliff. Don't know what kind of analogy that was, but it just seems like he hit one peak, and he had a great performance against Aldo. He like tuned up Faber before that. What else? Then he was whooping Aljo in the first fight, and then he illegally kneed him. So it's just a worry that I have, like, and then since then, he beat Sandhagen, which was great. Great performance, 5-rounder though. And then he gets out-grappled by Aljamain Sterling, loses 3 rounds to 2. Then he loses a close decision against Sean O'Malley. Could have gone either way in the striking. So his stand-up is still great. I'm not underestimating him here. And then he gets just thoroughly out-grappled and out-cardioed by Marab. My worry is that, like, the word's out on how to, like, beat Petr Yan. You got to overwhelm him early, take advantage of the fact that he is a slow starter, and just get him on the back foot early. And especially in a 3-rounder, I can just see Song Yadong using his explosiveness, using his danger factor with the power, because I think he hits, I'd say, like, power-wise, pure punch for punch, he hits harder than Sean O'Malley, but O'Malley's got the better speed and timing, which just catches you at the right times with his... Song doesn't even, like, catch you out of nowhere. He just, like, whacks you in the face and it fucking rocks you, but O'Malley's the guy that, like against Chris Matinho and stuff, like, I know Matinho's got a good chin, but, like, a lot of guys, he hits them, like, when they're just scrapping, he hits them, and they're expecting it, and he's not putting guys down and out every time, but it's like, he's just so good at finding those counters, like against Aljo. So I'd say actually pound for pound, or punch for punch, Song Yadong might actually hit harder than Sean O'Malley. And Corey Sandhagen even spoke. Corey Sandhagen said that Song Yadong was the hardest opponent that he's had to face. And that's coming from a guy that got subbed by Aljo in the first, that lost a 3-2 decision against Petr Yan. And he said Song Yadong was the most difficult puzzle to figure out. And, I know people said he didn't look amazing against Gutierrez or Simone, who are lower level opponents, but I think Song's one of those weird kind of guys that just fights to the level of his opponent, and if he's winning, he's not going to go out of his way to try and make something happen. Kind of like with what Leon just did against Colby. He's just cruising. He's not struggling, so why is he going to change? But against, Sandhagen, when he's tooth and nail, he can scrap it out with the best. Because I think Sandhagen's actually the best bantamweight right now. I think he would beat Sean O'Malley if they fought. So I think that that loss to Sandhagen, which was a cut stoppage, it wasn't even like he got really finished, let's be honest. And that only started to go downhill for him after the cut because he couldn't fucking see. Or he couldn't see, to begin with, he's looking like this. And now he can't even see at all. So it's tough for Song Yadong. But that fight was great. It's aged very well because Corey Sandhagen's done phenomenally in his recent fights. But I just don't know if I'm trusting Petr Yan. I think Song's grappling is really good too. I could see him taking down Petr Yan. I could see him just win the first on control time. I think he's that explosive and that strong early that he could just, if he takes down Yan, I wouldn't see him holding him there, but I could see him doing pretty well. And then I could see him just holding the clinch and making it boring for the first round, just using his explosiveness and his physical strength, as I said. So, and even on the striking, I'm not all that convinced that Petr Yan's going to school him. I think Song Yadong's one of the more underrated strikers in the 135-pound division. So, I'm picking Song Yadong by 29-28 decision. I think Petr Yan will win the third, but it'll be too little too late, and I just don't think this goes well for him, to be honest. But the next fight on the card that we have announced here is Geoff Neal versus Ian Cuck Chito Garry. Interesting announcement right after Ian pulled out with pneumonia. Real interesting that he's got a fight booked straight away. Maybe he wasn't injured. Maybe he was just so didn't want to get fucking verbally abused. Sorry, my bad. It's a bit sick. I must have pneumonia. But Ian Garry, fair play to him, is turning around after pulling out of that fight with sickness, allegedly. I'm calling it a case of shitting yourself because he didn't want to get verbally abused. But regardless, he's turning around 3 months later and he's going to fight Geoff Neal, who he was originally booked to fight in August. And if you don't remember, Geoff Neal pulled out of that fight. Ian Garry made a big deal out of it and said that Geoff Neal pulled out because he didn't like the trash talk. He was getting embarrassed by Ian Garry because of the whole mug shot on the shirt situation. So it's real interesting of Ian Garry to say that, but then expect sympathy for his pullout against Vicente Luque. So really interesting situation there. But I do see Ian Garry winning this, all jokes aside. He is actually a good fighter, which is unfortunate. You hate to see the annoying, shitty personalities that are just abominations of humans. You just don't like to see them win. But unfortunately, we're stuck with Ian Garry, who is actually a pretty good fighter. Whether you support his decision to let his wife probably sleep with other dudes, do the O'Malley kind of vibes. I'm not into that myself, but I guess he's a phenomenal athlete. So yeah, good for him. His wife's ex-boyfriend has him on a vegan diet. That's interesting. But he's probably going to beat Geoff Neal. I wouldn't see him finishing him. I do think he'll just tune him up on the feet. 30-27 decision. I think it'll be pretty clear, pretty simple, pretty easy. And I think he's going to shit talk a whole bunch. But I think on this same card, we have Kevin Holland as well, which I'm going to talk about in a second. We got Kevin Holland, we got Geoff Neal. I'd imagine they would team up. Chito Vera, I could imagine chiming in. Maybe even Petr Yan, gives him a bit of roasts him in Russian or something like that. That'd be pretty interesting. But yeah, I do think Ian Garry's still going to cop it at any press conference he's at regardless. Even if the person that he's with isn't even a trash talker, I think they are going to just still, why not jump in? You're going to get support for it anyway. You're going to get cheers at the press conference. All you got to do is insult the guy. But regardless, we have another fight announcement. It's Kevin Holland versus MVP Michael Venom Page. Amazing fight in the welterweight division.
Michael Page coming in from Bellator, from various promos. He's fought everywhere, really. Done BKFC with Mike Perry. He was looking at PFL, but then he obviously got signed up by the UFC. Probably wanted them bigger. Probably could have made more money at PFL, but he wants the bigger fights. He wants the more meaningful matchups. So fair play to him. I can't fault him for taking the harder fights. Kevin Holland, man, I think he's going to win. I think Kevin Holland will beat Michael Venom Page, and I think it's going to be a case of a wake-up call of us seeing that. I know MVP's amazing. I know he's a great fighter. He's a great fighter, a phenomenal athlete. But I just think it's going to be a situation of us seeing that Bellator fighters just aren't on the fucking caliber of UFC fighters. And when you fight guys like that your whole career, you ain't gonna fucking improve to that level. So I do think Kevin Holland's gonna win it could be just a pure striking match, which would favour MVP more, but I do think Holland might be smarter this time around than what he was against Wonderboy. Does mix in the takedowns. I could see him doing that. In which case, I do think he would get this one done by decision. He could wrap up a sub. I haven't seen a lot of MVP's fights. We always see people. If you guys are gonna act like you fucking regularly watch MVP's full fights, just shut the fuck up. You're just lying. Realistically, you just see his fucking highlights. When's the last time MVP fought? Let me look up his record, Mr. Page. I want to find this man's record and see if any of the names on there actually fucking mean anything. MVP record. Let me just find this man. Because I know he's fought in a few different promotions, but he's also 36 years of age. He's going to be 37 by the time this fight takes place. He will be almost 37. He's 21-2, so he's got an amazing record, but his last fight was in March of this year against Gyoti Yamauchi, so he got a quick finish, but it was he lost a 5-round split decision to Logan Storley in Bellator, won a split against Douglas Lima, Derek Anderson, Ross Houston. These guys are he also lost to Douglas Lima before by TKO. That's the one where he got his leg kicked out and then punched in the face. But these names, just Charlie Ontiveros, I remember, was some irrelevant UFC fighter. Anyone in here that means fucking anything, they just really ain't. I know people, he looks amazing, his striking is really good, but I think it's going to be a case of us realising that when you fight your fights against the likes of Thiago Santos, Stephen Thompson, Derek Brunson, Marvin Vittori, Jack Della, Maddalena, Michael Chiesa, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Hamzat Chimaev, that's different than fucking Douglas Lima and fucking Yamauchi or some bullshit. Some fucking crispy chicken sushi teriyaki chicken or some shit like that. Who the fuck are you fighting? Fighting some random cunt in Bellator. So I just don't think I think we're going to really get a wake-up call that the Bellator fighters and these dumbasses saying Usman and Magomedov would be a top 3 lightweight in the world, or the guys that were saying Yaroslav Amosov would be a fucking champion, or that Johnny Eblen wins a belt. All these fucking retards can just shut up and see that the Bellator fighters just ain't at the level of the UFC guys, because they're not fighting guys that level. So it's pretty simple. I'm picking Kevin Holland. I think he mixes in the takedowns, gets a few submission attempts, maybe even wraps up a dash choke. And even on the feet, I just don't think MVP is this absolute maestro. It's not going to look like the Wonderboy fight, even if it's a pure striking match. But the next fight on the card is, what do we have here? Mateusz Gamrot versus RDA. I've talked about this already, so I'll go over it a little bit quicker because I'm just running through this whole card that we have here. It's not even completed yet, but it's a weird fight to make. I'm picking Gamrot to win a boring decision, and if you look down this card, I could see a lot of these fights going to decision. We got O'Malley versus Chito, Burns versus Della, Yan versus Yadong, Holland versus Page, Neal versus Garry, Gamrot versus RDA. Blaydes versus Almeida, I'll talk about that in a second, but I could see all of those going this distance, honestly. I think they will be fun fights, but it's just going to be a bit of a yikes if these all go long. But regardless, Gamrot versus RDA, I think Gamrot's going to be just way more explosive, way better wrestler, better cardio. I think his striking even might be more cleaner at this point of his career. RDA's 35, 36, I think. Is he? Let me see. Let me just double check. How old is RDA? RDA. UFC. Let me just see. How old is he? He's 39. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm picking Gamrot. I know RDA's not like hasn't looked awful in his last fights, but he kind of just got he got outsized by Luka, who's not even like a wrestler of sorts. I know Gamrot's not going to be that much bigger than him, but I think he's just going to be way more athletic and get the takedowns. But moving on, Curtis Blaydes, Jailton, Almeida talked about this as well. I think Almeida's going to win. Blaydes is too retarded. I know people are going to not like his last performance, but ultimately he still took down Derek Lewis. Like, it's 5 rounds. You're going to have moments where some shit goes south, but he dominated that fight and won 50-45, 50-44, whatever you want to say. And Blaydes is just he's just too dumb. So I just can't trust him I just can't trust Blaydes to like fucking follow a game plan here. I think he's going to be more like cautious on the feet, which is going to open up things for Almeida on the feet to even test out his striking. And then even on the ground, I just think if Blaydes shoots on Almeida and then gets like guillotined or something, because we've never seen people shoot on Almeida because his jiu-jitsu is so good, but I could see Blaydes just being dumb as fuck and shooting on him. But I won't talk about it too much. I'm going Almeida by decision. Next fight, Katlyn Chookagian versus Maycee Barber. Great fight. I'm picking Maycee Barber. She's looked improved in her recent fights. She actually looked pretty good against, who was it? Amanda Ribas. She looked pretty solid. She had a point in her career where she was looking mid. She was the fucking split decision queen, but she actually looked good. She had some power in the last fight. Katlyn Chookagian hasn't fought since October last year against Manan Fiorot. So I think Maycee Barber's going to get this one done. What else do we have here? Pedro Munhoz versus Kyler Phillips. Great fight. I could see Kyler Phillips breaking into the rankings. I'll pick him to win out of like kind of hope that he's really improved and stuff and that he's the younger guy, I think. Or at least younger in his career. Like Pedro Munhoz has gone through more scraps. Coming off that Chito Vera fight, took a bit of damage. I just think Kyler Phillips is going to show up well and break into the rankings. Lauren Murphy versus Karine Silva. I think Karine Silva's going to smoke her. Karine and Natalia Silva, they're not related, but they're both two women's prospects that are actually pretty solid. Normally you see women's MMA fighters and you're like, yeah, you just suck, you're shit. But these two have actually looked pretty good. So I'm backing Karine Silva. Lauren Murphy has not fought since January this year, which is going to be over a year by the time she gets back in the cage, when she got beat up by the lesbian Jessica Andrade. So definitely picking Karine Silva. And then the last fight that we have so far is CJ Vegara versus Asu Almabaev. I'm picking Almabaev. He was, again, pretty solid prospect. He beat Ode Osborne by submission, who's actually not a terrible fighter. So I'm going to back Asu Almabaev to make some more leaps in his career and get a win. But that's the UFC 299 card so far. I think that's like 11 fights, so we still got a bit more to go. Even Dana said that card's not done. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think of the matchups. And I got a bunch more videos coming soon recapping 2023 and a bunch of other stuff. So stay tuned. Peace out, everybody.